Welcome to episode 45 in our series on duties of the heart by Rabbi Bachya Ibn Pakuda, and we are now on the fifth chapter of the fifth gate, which is the gate of wholehearted devotion of all acts, and we're about to have a systematic analysis of the Yetzer Hara, or evil inclination, which is in us, inbuilt in us, created by God for us to spar against, as my cousin Rabbi Mashiach Kalati would very wisely called it. I sometimes think of it as a drill sergeant in certain respects. It's a created entity that is inbuilt in us and is there to push and pull to get the best out of us ultimately. Again, created by God for us. Ultimately it can be used and it can benefit us, but we have to be strong, and if we're going to take on this battle we have to be strong, and it's something you can't avoid. Each and every one of us will face him continuously, or face it continuously, and if we get the better of it, we end up with a very powerful ally, so to speak. Rambam has talked about this. You can turn, like the alchemist turns base metal into finer metals. You can turn this evil inclination to work for you if you can be that strong. And that is the ultimate aim, is to turn it into someone who works for you, who will ultimately take you to great heights. But let's look at the way Rabbi Bahya analyzes this. So, chapter 5, on the incitement of the evil inclination, I think it proper to illustrate this matter for you with examples which will be representative of all the rest, not mentioned here, so that people may be wary of them and serve God wholeheartedly. As King Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 1 verse 5, that a wise man may hear and add to his knowledge, and that a man of understanding acquire perceptiveness. So Rabbi Bachya continues with this chapter on our greatest enemy. And he continues, I say then, O man, that you should know that your greatest enemy you have in this world is your own evil impulse, which is interwoven with the powers of your soul and intertwined in the character of your spirit, associated with you in governing your senses and spiritual faculties, privy to the secrets of your soul and to what is hidden deep inside you, your counselor in all your willful movements, whether observable or concealed. It lies in wait to entice you at every step. You are unaware of it, but it is aware of you. You are unmindful of it, but it is not unmindful of you. It clothes itself in the garb of friendship for you, adorns itself with the adornment of love for you. It joins the circle of your confidants, counselors and choicest friends, and seems eager to do your will, as indicated in its outward movements and gestures, but in fact it is shooting deadly arrows at you to uproot you from the land of the living, as it says in Proverbs 26, like a madman who shoots firebrands and deadly arrows, so is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I did it only in sport. The most powerful of its weapons, which it hurls at you and with which it assaults you in your innermost being, is its attempt to sow doubt in your mind about true notions, confound you in what had been clear to you, and confuse your soul with mistaken notions and false arguments. It thereby distracts you from your true interests and causes you to doubt confirmed doctrines and beliefs. If you will be wary of it, and have ready the weapons of your understanding with which to fight it, and turns its arrow away from you, you will be delivered from it and will escape it with God's help. But if you abandon all your interest to it and follow its lead, it will not let you alone until it has destroyed you in both worlds and uprooted you from both abodes, as it is written of one of its branches. one of its soldiers, and he quotes from Proverbs chapter 7, "For she has cast down many dead, a great many of those she has killed. Her house is the way to the netherworld, leading down to the chambers of death. Therefore, let no other struggle divert you from your struggle with it. Let no other battle divert you from your battle with it. Do not let conflict with one who is far from you keep you from combating that which is inseparable from you. Do not let the repulsion of one who can reach you only with permission keep you from repelling that which need not ask permission in order to be with you." The story is told of a pious man who met a group of people returning with the spoils of war after vanquishing their enemy in a fierce battle. He said to them, "You have returned victoriously from a minor struggle. Now prepare yourself for the major struggle." "And what is the major struggle?" they asked him. "The struggle with the evil inclination and its armies," he said to them. "It is an amazing thing, my brother. Any other foe, when you defeat him once or twice, will leave you alone and give up the idea of attacking you, aware of your superior strength. He loses hope of ever defeating and overpowering you. The evil inclination, however, will not leave you alone after 1 or even 100 defeats, regardless of whether it defeats you or you defeat it. For if it defeats you, it will utterly destroy you, and if you defeat it once, it will lie in wait for you all your life in order to subdue it. As our masters of blessed memory said, do not be sure of yourself until the day of your death." This is from Ethics of Our Father, chapter 2, verse 4. "It does not consider the smallest of your affairs as too insignificant a means for overcoming you. A small matter serves it as a stepping stone to vanquish you in something higher. You should then be wary and fulfill none of its requests. Regard as important the very smallest of your victories over it, the slightest increase of your power over it, so that this be for you a step to a greater victory. For the evil inclination will be quick to obey you and will not stand up to you when you stand up to it. As it says in Genesis chapter 4 verse 7, its obedience is unto you and you may rule over it." It's a very important statement there by Rabbi Bachya that gives an indication that this immensely powerful thing that seems to wrap us up in its little finger can be overcome just by resistance to it and can be stopped in its tracks straight away. The seemingly looming menace over us that is constantly badgering us to turn away from all things good can be pressed under our thumb as long as we take action to do this. This is very, very important to understand. It is a minority entity within us, and it appears as a majority sometimes, but always know that it's a minority, and the minority can always be pressed down and overwhelmed. He continues, "Accordingly, do not be daunted by it. Though its armies be mighty, do not be afraid of it. Though its supporters be many, for its chief intent is to make truth out of falsehood. Its main purpose is to uphold untruth. How soon comes its fall? How swiftly its ruin? If you will but realize its weakness, as King Solomon portrays in Ecclesiastes chapter 9. There was a small city with a few men in it, and the great king came against it, surrounded it, and built great siege works against it. Now there was found in it a man who was poor but wise, and he, by his wisdom, delivered the city." A human being is represented here by a small city, because he is the microcosm. His bodily limbs and faculties of soul are depicted as a few men. They appear to be few in light of the large ambitions of a man's heart, his constant desire in this world, and his inability and failure to achieve them. The evil inclination is portrayed as a great king on account of its numerous forces, followers, and legions. Scripture says that the great king surrounded it, as the evil inclination encompasses all of man's affairs, both public and private. built great siege works against it, refers to the multitude of evil imaginings, evil thoughts, and shameful incidents through which the evil inclination tries to put a man to death, as we will explain further in this gate with God's help. Now, there was found a man. He continues this analogy from Mishlei. Now, there was found in it a man who was poor but wise, refers to the intellect. It is termed poor because its followers and supporters are few, as it says further, yet no one remembered this poor man. This poor man's wisdom is despised. The substance of the story is that, despite the intellect's weakness, when it combats the evil inclination, the latter quickly submits to it, and the threat posed to man by the evil inclination is easily dispelled. For a little truth overcomes much falsehood, just as a little light dispels much darkness. One can draw inspiration from this story to combat one's passions and to stand up to one's baser instinct with vigor and perseverance, because it demonstrates the inability of the evil inclination to stand before the intellect and the speed with which it falls before it. As it says in Scripture, and he quotes Proverbs chapter 14 verse 19, the evil bow low before the good. So fascinating analysis of this great enemy, as Rabbi Bahya describes the evil inclination, which is a part of us, and it's interwoven with our soul. So it's not something you can just separate and remove, but you must learn to live with it and control it. As Rabbi Bachya says, as powerful as it seems, show some resistance and it immediately folds like a pack of cards. But you have to be strong to propose this resistance. It's very important. And now in the next section, this chapter 5, is quite long, and it gives many examples of what doubts the Yetzer Hara, evil inclination, sort of sows in our mind. And we're going to just tackle one now briefly, and we'll leave the rest to future episodes. So the first doubt is doubt about the soul after death, and how the evil inclination kind of confuses us in this respect. So Rabbi Bachya continues, the first point on which the evil inclination will raise doubt in your mind is about which it will try to convince you is that the soul cannot last without the body, perish when the body perishes, and after death has no existence. It supports this view with imaginary arguments, which, when subjected to analysis, prove to be unfounded, but which it employs in order to induce you to seek passing pleasures and short-lived desires, and so that you adopt the motto ascribed by Scripture to the proponents of such a life, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. Yeshayahu chapter 22 verse 13. If, however, you consult your intellect about this, it will refute this view with conclusive arguments, which were noted by the early ones and are found in the words of the prophets, peace be upon them. So very important, this first doubt that the Yetzer Hara tries to sow in our mind is live for today, because nothing, when you die, that's it. There is no world to come. You have no soul as such. Your soul doesn't move on somewhere. You've got no soul to perfect as such. You know what? You're a physical being. Eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow you shall die. And you have to avoid being caught up in this. It's very easy to think, it's a world to come. No one can prove this world to come to me today on earth. So you know what? Let me enjoy myself while I'm here. You only live once. You only live once can be looked at in two ways. You only live once, so do what the hell you want and enjoy yourself. Don't think about God or anything. Or you only live once. This is your chance to achieve greatness for your soul and take it to a higher level. and you only have this one chance. You only live once in order to perfect and refine your soul. So I look forward to continuing this analysis of the evil inclination in the next episode.